Well, we'd like to welcome you here tonight for our football awards banquet and awards presentation. And before I turn this over, I think that we should give the Crandalls a hand for the nice food and all the people involved. Without further ado, I will now turn the program over to our Master of Ceremonies, and he doesn't need an introduction to some of you because I'm sure that many of you remember him yelling at you in all those kind words that he used to use on the field, like get up and get going or something like that. So with that, Jim Hankus, our Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you, Neil. Welcome to Warrior Country. You know, it's been a long time since I've seen that, but it really makes me feel good to be able to say it again. Now, we're going to do this a little bit different. We'll have the awards after the speaker tonight. But before we get to the speaker, there are a few of you guys sitting out there that I can remember some stories about. And I think your sons are playing, they have played this year. So let me see if I can recall some of them. First one I think is about Gary Anderson. You know, preseason football, it gets awfully hot. And temperatures are up in the 90s. And Gary liked to come late to practice because he didn't like to run those laps that he did at the beginning. So this went on for a while. And one day he pulls in late as usual. And I thought, well, I just had enough of this crap. So I said, Gary, now what is your excuse? Well, Coach, he said, Jeepers, the roads are really icy. Then, you know, Alan White was a tremendous kicker. He used to be able to kick off and kick it right between the goalposts. So he did our extra points and things like that. And Jeff Norton had problems in high school because his wheels were always hurt. He got his knees hurt, he got his toes hurt, and what have you. But anyway, he was the holder for Alan. And I don't remember just, I think it was the Breckenridge game. And Alan was trying to kick a field goal from the 15-yard line. Just a chip shot for him. And he always could think up excuses when he missed. Well, anyway, I wasn't thinking about him missing because there was nothing to it. But he missed it. And he come over the sideline and he said, now before you say anything, I want to tell you what happened. I said, okay, what happened? He said that Blaine Norton, he put the ball upside down. And Lenny Zimmel, I can remember this one. Lenny was a tiger. I guess his son's about the same. But Lenny was, I believe, a freshman or a sophomore. Now, you know, when you get old, you get that old people's disease. I don't remember what it's called. But, anyway, I told Lenny, I said, now you're going to go into the game and tackle. Oh, geez, he was all excited. He really got revved up. And George was standing over here by my side. He said, "You sure you're going to put him in?" I said, "Yeah, he'll be all right." So anyway, all the time out, Donnie Schultz is just coming out of the huddle. And Lenny comes tearing off the fifth, flying in there, and decks Donnie. Just knocks it off cold. We pull Donnie over the sideline. George is working over him. And Donnie starts to wake up and he says, "Chick, that's the hardest I ever been hit." And George says, "Yeah, I guess it is." He said, "The only trouble is we got to teach that kid whose side he's on." Well, then you can't forget Mike Gale. Great quarterback, you know. Just try to throw it through the wall. And I believe that Mike was probably a sophomore. When he went into the game, we were on our own 5-yard line, and we were getting beat. We were playing Moorhead. And I said, "Mike, go in there and run 121 twice, then quit kicking." So, okay, we'll do that. So he goes up, gets in the huddle. They run 121, tried to run 45 yards. Then he called it again, and they went 40 yards. And I thought, well, boy, we're going to score. Called the play, he drops back, boom, he punts it. Their 5-yard line, he comes out, I said, "What in the world are you thinking about?" He said, "Well, the only thing I got to think about was how dumb you are to tell me to do that." Well, I better lay off these guys. Jimmy Satter really doesn't need any introduction either, because the Satter name has been famous here for a long time in Wheaton. And it's famous now again up at NDSU with Jimmy's boys. Jimmy was one of the hardest workers that I ever had. He went on to college, and you know what he did there. Little All-American. But then there was a story about him as well. You know, when he was playing, I was 62, 63 right in there. We just got our new helmets, and they were Riddell helmets. Well, anyway, Jimmy was a guy that didn't mince any words with anybody, that played in the line and so on. So, anyway, I never could figure out, you know, when we run off tack, when we run off guard, geez, those guys would just, boom, they were out of there. Where they were supposed to go. But one of the other backs would do that, they didn't come off the ball that way. Well, I don't remember who it was. I guess it was, no, I don't remember. But one of the guards come on the game, and I said, "How come that every time Satter gets the ball, you guys fly off the ball the way you do?" Well, he said, you know, he told us in the huddle, he said, "If you guys don't get out of the way, you're going to have a Riddell enema." No other words, Jimmy said.
Hi, football fans. I tell you, it's a great time for me being here, and a time of excitement, and I think we want to get it going. I asked the cheerleaders that, hey, this is a celebration. We don't want to do a lot of talking. We want to honor the young fellows that had a great football season, and good way as any to kick it off is I think maybe they would kick off every football game with the cheerleaders with a cheer. So let's have it, girl. Neil called, and I say Coach Johnson, and I guess I'll affectionately refer to him as Neil and Coach Neil, that asked me to leave a few words with you young warriors and parents and friends of football, and give me an opportunity to think back a little bit about tradition and warrior tradition, and started thinking about it a little bit and thought back to George Sawyer's 8th grade geography class, thought about 8th grade football, and there are probably some 8th graders sitting here, and I thought about that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about work ethics and tradition. And as an 8th grader, myself and a fellow by the name of Jerry Moore, we never played a second, and went home and, gee, I like football, and decided I was going to work at it, and wanted to give it a shot, and was fortunate enough to play some high school football, some college football, and to do some high school coaching, some college coaching, and wound up my coaching with coaching 5th and 6th graders, a level that I knew something about, I guess, and was a great thing. It's greetings from an old warrior. It's great to be back to share a few thoughts with you this evening, to you young warriors. It's really great to see Coach Hinckus. He's the one that laid a lot of groundwork in my work ethics. I think it's the work ethics that made me successful in my athletic endeavors, because I wasn't really a great athlete, but I do think I worked pretty hard at it. And my success as a coach, and now getting out of coaching and into the sales business, and working with people and so forth, it all interrelates, it all gets back to work ethics, the time that you want to be, that you want to put in it yourself and what you can do with it. And I want to publicly, I don't get, the person doesn't get many opportunities to do this, to say thank you, Jim. I think that that hug there is something that each of you young guys and you young ladies, that's something that you don't want to get away from. I do it with my 21-year-old son. When he comes home after a game or when he's leaving, and tell him I love him and I give him a hug. I think that's a pretty important thing. We want to thank Jim also, I think, for the tradition. The other thing I want to talk about, that there's a lot of great warrior tradition that I think was a basis that started with Coach Hinckus. And I know there's some other ball players here that goes back before my son 35 years ago when I played here. And that's a great tradition. If you were going to be a warrior and you were going to play for Hinckus, you knew you had to pay the price. And I think that goes back. I went back to my scrapbook and dug out a Wheaton Gazette of the fall of 1962. And I might just read from it. There's a pretty good looking young Hinckus there too. It says, Jim Hinckus, starting his second year as head coach of the Warriors, has been running his squad through grueling practice sessions for 3 weeks in hopes of getting his starters in top condition for the opener. He has high hopes of a repeat performance of last year's opening when the Warriors defeated the Lakers 12-7 and then went on to a fine 6-3 record for the season. In my senior year, we wound up 6-1, tying with Alexandria. And I think the following year, they did win a championship. So there's certainly some great tradition there, and started with a great person like Coach Hinckus. We talk about tradition. It goes back to October 26, 1962, Al Olson. And from this angle, by EAO. In an attempt to give Gazette readers a bigger and better sports page, we're going to take a fling at writing a short weekly column that we hope will be of interest to all of you. Some of our personal opinions may not always be agreeable to everyone, but we would appreciate hearing of any differences of opinions. And I picked up the Wheaton Gazette when I got into day-to-day, into town today, and from this angle is still there, 30-some years ago. So I think there's we talk about tradition, there's certainly lots of it. I want to talk about work ethics and tradition. That's the emphasis, and that's what I want to share with you as we go along a little bit tonight. Young warriors, parents, and friends of warrior tradition. It's great to be here. It's great the success you had. And I look at Coach Johnson here. Coach Neal and I, we go back a long ways. We go back to 1967 when I was a young coach, just hot out of college. There wasn't much that I didn't know about football, and much that we weren't going to do that. We were certainly going to go out in 1967 and win a championship. And Coach Johnson was my assistant. Well, Coach Satter didn't have real great success. We were 0-8, and we scored 1 touchdown. But it was a great inspiration. Johnson just waited too long, I think, to get into the game. He come to me at the end of that season, and he says, Jim, he says, you know, he says, I think we got to change your blocking technique. That lookout block isn't going to work anymore. And I know you're saying lookout block. Well, we'd come off the line, the quarterback would come up and take that snap from the center. The lineman would stand up, turn around, and holler, "Look out!" In fact, we used the donut defense all season. That's the defense with the big hole in the middle. I suppose you Warriors have a little bit of a problem relating to that kind of stuff, huh? 1989. How tough was the Warrior defense? Well, I heard plenty about it, let me tell you. They told me that every offense that you played, give the play away all the time. They'd break from their huddle, 3 backs would come up there with a lapping, and the 4th one was white as a ghost. Any truth in that? Huh? Not only were you a bunch of physical specimen and, goodness, a bunch of horses, but you were also pretty smart. Except one exception, I heard that one of the fellows hadn't done so well on a math test, and Coach Neal was pretty nervous about it being eligible that Friday night, so he goes to the math department, talks to one of the math teachers about, gee, couldn't there be some way that possibly he could take that math test over? Give him another chance, and that was fine. And the next day, Neal runs in all excited. Said, "My goodness," he said, "Now, Jimmy, you know that test?" "Oh," the math teacher said, "Not so good." He says, "I don't know how we can really make him eligible." He said that, "Here, look at this, 7 times 5, 33. He says, "No way." And he steps back, and his eyes are big, and he says, "Well, my goodness," he says, "I don't know why you can't give him a break. He only missed it by 1. Yes, we can laugh and we can feel awful good about 1989. And you really can feel good about yourselves. Good about yourselves and the work that you put in the 1989 season and getting ready for it. And I think also a tradition of a Wheaton Warrior. The tradition that has truly made you a successful school and a successful program, winning or losing. We talk about tradition, we talk about working hard, and work ethics. I can tell you I worked awful hard in 1967, Coach Johnson and myself, and the players. Working hard doesn't guarantee success because we were 0-8, as far as the scoreboard goes. But I think something I want to leave you with, work ethics, and what it means is putting in the time to do your very best, win or lose. And you young Warriors have had the added benefit of a winning season. A Pheasant Conference Championship, Section 4 winners, and a chance to play in the state playoffs. I can relate back to August 15th, when Coach Neal asked me to come down and be a guest coach for a day. And it was really exciting for myself. And as we walked off the field that afternoon, you knew that you fellows were going to be a good football team. Well-conditioned, and the attitude. There's just nothing that beats a good attitude that, gee, you wanted to play, you wanted to get through the practice, and as the coaches headed to the locker room work ethics, there were the football players heading for more work in the weight room. You each paid the price to become the best each of you could be. The coaches, they spent the time, they worked at putting together the game plan that you players could utilize the best of your abilities to give you the kind of success and the great season you had. Again, we relate, working hard doesn't guarantee winning. It aids one in doing his very best. And that's something then that nobody can take away from you. You had a great season. You each did your best as a team. Here you are working hard. You did your best and you get to your last game and you lose. But only a loss on the scoreboard. You played as hard as you could. You'd worked as hard as you could. You'd lost the game. But young warriors, you only lost it on the scoreboard, and you only lost it that day. I'm asking you young men to continue the work ethics that you established in 1989. We've talked about your work ethics as an individual. What are your team responsibilities that you learned so well? And your role. You learned the responsibility of your teammates, the responsibility of your family, to your coaches, and it was your effort then as you third stringers, or how about the scout team that made the team a success? Each person on that team, from the cheerleaders to the third stringer, you all made it happen in 1989, and you really should feel awfully good about yourselves in that effort. We talk about recognition and recognizing each person that did the job in the team. I go back again to the Wheaton Gazette of 1962. Talk about tradition and things being kind of relative. I read again from this angle. It seems that we've been under fire lately because some of Wheaton's football fans don't think we give enough credit to the line. Well, the Warriors' backs get all the publicity. We have to plead guilty on that score, for we know linemen are the unsung heroes. It is very difficult to keep track of the ball carriers, the yards gained or lost, then have to attempt to get the numbers and names of one or several tacklers or blockers on every play, so we hope to be forgiven. We feel we must give credit where credit is due, however, so here goes. And I say, here goes. Warrior linemen, stand up. All up. Yes, your individual effort, your role to make a team, cooperation for success today as a football player, as a family member, and tomorrow as a citizen. With those kind of efforts, you seniors, you'll continue in life to make each day a good feeling in yourself. Not always a winner in every day, but knowing you put in the effort that things are going to turn and things are going to be better. You underclassmen, you can look at the school effort you have left. You can look at your 1990 season and the work ethics that you're going to have to put to use and that you can put to use to make 1990 a success. Yes, Wheaton Warrior tradition of good athletes that always gave their best, and the opposition knew that win or lose, they'd always been in the game. If I can leave you with one thought, going with work ethics tradition, my son Tony, who's a junior at NDSU, and they were a national championship football team and was an all-conference selection this year. A week ago, he was asked by the press on television, they said that, "My, you have a lot of athletic ability. What do you want people to think of you? How do you want them to remember or relate to you?" And I think it's pretty apropos to you young fellows and the efforts that you put in and that you want to continue to put in. Because each step doesn't get any easier. And that's whether it's going to be in football, and as you get out of school and you go on into other things, it's going to have to take some effort. And his response to him was, yes, I have a lot of God-given ability. But he says, I want those people to know, they'll never know the number of hours that I put in daily, weekly, and yearly to make the best of those God-given abilities. And the efforts that I'm going to put back in it, so hopefully I can have a better senior year and I can have a better future, whichever way that takes me. So it doesn't matter whether you have really little ability or you have a lot of God-given ability. It takes the effort from in here to do the very best that each of you can do. And again, nobody can take that away from you. Young warriors, establish the work ethics that will make you the very best you can be, win or lose. We talk about tradition. I talked about the tradition you guys have right here in 1989. The tradition that you're building, that you're going to step out of here and be able to look back, as myself and Coach Hinkus have done for 30 years. And that'll come to you. We can go back to 1962, and I wrap it up. It's interesting, isn't it? How everything falls in line, and I have to take a quote from Roosevelt in 1899, and I leave you with this. Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the great twilight that knows not victory or defeat. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You know, everybody, I sat here and I looked around, and everybody that's here are the same ones that have always been here to these functions. I think probably the only ones that I didn't know were the O'Learys there, and that's probably because they came about the time that we were leaving town. And then I looked back there and I saw Kellen, and I didn't tell any story about him. He was a kicker too, if I remember right, and his son was a kicker this year. But David had a sharp mind. He could always think up things real quickly. And George told me this, Mr. Sawyer. One day in class, Mr. Sawyer said to the class, I'll give you all 5 minutes to relate to me on paper what a baseball game is all about. Well, David sat there for 5 minutes. He didn't write anything down on the paper. George walked back there and he looked at him and he said, I'll give you 5 minutes more. David sat there and looked around. Didn't write anything down on the paper. Just before it was time to end, George said, you got 30 seconds, David. You better get something down on that paper. David scribbled something down. 3 words. George came back, picked up the paper, and looked, and started to laugh. And he said, Kellen, you win. It said, rain, no game. And as I was saying before, you know, looking around here and seeing everybody, West Norton there played halfback back in 1927, I believe. Then along comes the next Norton, then the next Norton, And then I looked at the one playing on the 9th grade team there today. I don't think he's going to be a halfback, West. But anyway, when you saw Jimmy and I grab a hold of each other, that's true feeling. Every one of these guys sitting on the stage know what it is to coach, know what it is to have real feelings. You guys sitting down there, this year meant a great deal to you, but just wait. About 25 years or so, you're going to remember this stuff all too clearly. Then it's really going to hit the button of what it was all about. You have been lucky. You've got great coaches. You've got a great athletic system. You've got a great school. Just remember that. Now, Neil, you can give out your award.
Somebody asked me why in the world you would, I shouldn't say hire 2 gyms to do the speaking, because I didn't hire them. And they don't know their checks in the mail. Heard that one before. Okay, but anyway, Jim's, right guys? Jim Henkes is the guy that hired me in Wheaton back in 1969, and I really thought it would be nice to have Jim back here because Jim has meant so much to Wheaton football over the years, and a truly fine friend of all of us here at Wheaton High School, teachers, coaches, fans, players, and the like. So we're just tickled to have Jim back with us tonight. And as far as Saturday goes, this little short guy here, a lot of you guys don't realize this, but Jim used to be, like myself, a lot lighter. He was quite a quarter miler in his day. He was a heck of a baseball catcher. I was down at the Twins game a few years ago, and I was visiting with a guy by the name of Jerry Kuzman. And Kuzman, we were talking hunting and fishing, and he said, "Oh, by the way, how's that little short catcher of mine that used to catch me back at the, what was it called back in those days? The Duck League or the Beer League, one or the other." But anyway, you wouldn't hardly believe that. Kuzman was the pitcher, and Jimmy here was the catcher for him. So he's had quite a distinction of not just being a football player. He was a basketball player. In fact, I believe he was a running mate with Jerry Schultz at guard here back in those days. So they played basketball with, everybody knows Jerry Schultz. Well, this is the other guard that played, see. So Jerry went on in basketball. Jim went on and became just a whale of a football player up in Concordia. They still talk about some of his exploits up there, and we're not going to get into those either. He's the only freshman, people, that I can remember that they taped to the bench because he was loud and obnoxious. So they taped him and left him there. I don't know how many days either. But he was quite an athlete and quite a friend. The only thing he isn't, I can still beat him at golf and I think fishing. Those are 2 things I think I can still take him in. Okay, with that, we're going to get on to our awards. We got a few awards we want to give out tonight. We're going to speed it up a little bit. We're going to call on first Mrs. Sweezy to give out the cheerleader awards for this year.
This is my first year as cheerleader advisor here in Wheaton, and feel that my cheerleader squad this year did an excellent job, worked real hard to support the team. Not like softball, when it's rained out. you play. If it's snowing, you play. If it's raining, you play. So they've gone through pretty much all that you have too out there on the sidelines, staying in there through thick and thin. They worked real hard on signs also. Was sometime during the middle of the season when I felt just had that feeling that we were going to state this year, and started thinking about what kind of signs and some permanent signs for outside out at the football field that we could do. The girls painted them, did a good job on that, but we also have some other people to thank. Ellie Peterson, Mark Erlinson, and Dave Tome for putting some special effort into getting those signs out that you saw at the field the last 4 or 5 games, and we'd like to thank them also tonight. I also would like to thank Sharon Johnson for helping me on the Parents' Night, which was in September. And right now I'd like to say all the cheerleading squads, and then I'll just take your awards, give them to you down there. It's Lori Erlinson, Michelle Anderson, Cindy Messenbrink, Marcy Canlis, Kiri Sorensen, Karen Delano, and Tara Kepler. Thank you.
To introduce the all-conference team, I'd like to have you give them a round of applause. They've already got their medals and plaques and different things for the all-conference, but here would be Wheaton's all-conference team. Honorable mention, why don't you guys stand up here and stay standing till everybody's up. The all-conference team this year was Andy Markson, Sr., honorable mention, Mike Martnick, Sr., honorable mention, Jeff Zimmel, Sr., honorable mention, Jason Krenz, Sr., honorable mention. Those guys were all conference. First team all conference, Tim Gale, Sr., Jade Norton, Sr., Brian Schultz, Sr., Colin Anderson, Sr., and John Behrens, Jr. Those were Wheaton's all conference. This year, as you know, we kind of broke down when I came in and was asked to be a football coach. I got to talking with Coach Gale and was just tickled when he said that he would stay on. And I said, well, how would you like to take the offense? And Mike said, well, offense would be fine. I wanted to keep everything kind of the same as we had everybody back, basically, from last year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our offensive coordinator, Coach Gale, and he will give out the offensive awards at this time.
Thank you, Neil. The awards that I'm going to give out right now are awards that are voted on and selected by the kids, the teammates. And the first one that I'm going to do is called our Best Offensive Lineman. And this year, we were rather blessed with a lot of good offensive linemen. I'm sure this was a very tough choice, a tough decision for these kids to make. Because as far as I'm concerned, all 5 of them were all conference, all state, all everything to me. But some things you have to choose. This year, we had 2 young men that were selected by their peers as our best offensive linemen. First one is a senior. He played tight end for us. Just an excellent blocker, an excellent receiver, and more than anything, just an excellent leader, Andy Markson. was a senior. Both of these fellows, well, a lot of these guys, I've had the opportunity to coach and be a part of since they were in 7th grade. This kid played offensive guard for me, and as far as I'm concerned, was one of the best blockers in the state of Minnesota. He led on all of our sweeps when we pulled a guard, and he was a trapping guard also. And I had the opportunity, all the coaches did, after every game, to look at films, and the one thing that I truly enjoyed about looking at those films is seeing this kid hit some people. Our other winner of our offensive lineman, best offensive lineman, is Mike Martin. The next award that we have is our best offensive blocker. Now, how do you differentiate between best offensive lineman and best offensive blocker? Good question. As I said before, as far as I was concerned, we have 5 of them. This young man worked hard during the off season. He was very dedicated. Again, when we would run our traps, we'd run our crossfires, other teams that scouted us, that's all they did all week is practice against our crossfires, against our traps. For any of you that do not know what a trap is where we, on purpose, let the defensive end come through. He is then hit by a pulling guard on the blind side, and our back goes inside of him. So it's kind of a shock sometimes to a defensive end to get hit that way. And again, looking at the films, seeing what Mike did, and seeing what this young man did when they would pull was something to behold. I mean, you could hear the hits on the tapes. Our best offensive blocker, honorable mention, all conference, along with Andy and Mike, Jason Kranz. I like linemen. I love my hogs. That's what I call them. But I also love back and forth. Probably because I was one. The next award that we have is our best offensive back. And again, it was a tough decision. If I had to make it, and the rest of the coaches had to make it, I don't think we could. Next young man has played for me for the last 2 years. This year, he has amassed over 1,150 yards rushing. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot remember, and Jim, you can too, I cannot remember our last 1,000-yard rusher in a season. This young man had 1,147 rushing yards for an average of 9.48 yards per carry. That is just about a first down every time he carried the ball. He had 15 touchdowns rushing. He had 2.1 two-point conversion. He's our leading ground gainer. He's our leading scorer. If he would have had a good foot, we would be celebrating a state championship today. Because I truly believe that with two good running backs in our last game against Hillview Creek, we would have beaten the ball game. It's my pleasure to present this year's Best Offensive Back, All-Conference Performer, Junior John Barron. Last award that I'm going to make this evening is a new category, or one of Coach Johnson's categories, and this is Best Offensive Player. This, again, was a tough decision, I'm sure, on the part of the fellows, but let me tell you a little something about this guy. He had the 3-year starter, number one. He had 600 yards rushing, just about 900 yards passing. He had an average on kickoffs of just about 25 yards in return. He had a 10-point-yard average on punt returns. He ran for 14 touchdowns. He passed for 17 touchdowns, and he either passed or ran for 13 two-point conversions. He was Cousin Conference, All-Conference, first team. He was an All-State honorable mention. This year's Best Offensive Player is Tim Gale. As all the awards that I have at this time, again, I would just like to express my congratulations to all you fellows, especially you seniors, because we're going to miss you. The underclassmen, just shows you this year what can be accomplished. Put your mind to it, carry on the tradition, as Coach Satter said, and do things that Coach Hinckus told you to do. Thank you.
Well, the next guy needs no introduction. He's been helping you all with your math for years and years. And we're really fortunate to have Jim in the football program with us. He's been, I don't know, 18, 20 years, Coach. Longer than he cares to remember, probably. But he's just done a super job with our defensive all year. I think it's only fitting that Mr. Milne gives out the defensive awards at this time. Coach?
Thanks, Dale. Like Mike said, these are the awards that the kids choose themselves. And I guess this year we were fortunate that we had as many kids to choose from that had fantastic years both offensively and defensively for us. Of the 4 awards we'll be giving away on defense this evening, the first one is called Best Defensive Lineman. And the recipient of this award is an honorable Pheasant Conference team member. He had 86 tackles on the year. He recorded 6 quarterback sacks and picked up 4 fumble recoveries for the Warriors of '89. Jeff has been playing for us on varsity for 3-4 years. I guess I remember, I think it was when Jeff was a freshman, going to Pelican Rapids and playing a game up there where we had some pretty stout linemen. And our Coast Guard got knocked out of the game. And here was Jeff, a youngster, but even at that point in time, a very competitive young individual. And he was willing to go in for us and play Coast Guard for us at that time. And I remember the coaches on the way home figured, boy, we've got this kid back for 2, 3 more years. Jeff has lived up to the expectations that we had at that time. Almost every game we went into this year, Jeff was double teamed or triple teamed by the opposing offensive lineman. With that, our best defensive lineman for 1989 is Jeff Zimmerman. Our second defensive award this evening is Best Defensive Back. Another young man that has played Warrior football for, well, like Mike said, a lot of these seniors that we had this year have been playing for 6 years. He has played football in the Wheaton program since 7th grade. On our defensive statistics list, he compiled 107 tackles. He became one of the best linebackers that we've had the fortune of working with in the Wheaton program in the last several years. Cullen was first team all-conference. A kid, again, who size-wise you may want to think maybe didn't quite have it when he had to stack up against 200-pound linemen and pretty good-sized running backs. Cullen is a good example of a kid who has worked and worked and worked. He has probably logged more time in the weight room than any one individual we've had in our Warrior football team this year. And Cullen, it has paid off for you. Our best defensive back for the Warriors of '89, Cullen Anderson. Our third award in defense this evening is called Best Defensive Hitter. When they say good things come in small packages, you can talk to almost any opposing offensive backfield and they would tend to agree with you. Here's a young man that amassed 89 tackles for the year. He had 2 quarterback sacks and was credited with 4 interceptions. Young Jake was an all-conference player for Pheasant Conference this year. He was also an all-state winner on the state level. The best hitter, defensive hitter for the 1989 season for the Warriors, Jake Norton. Our fourth and final defensive award this evening is called Best Defensive Player. This young guy really came into his own, I think, in the last couple of years. Brian amassed 12.5 sacks, quarterback sacks, on the opposing quarterbacks this year, which is quite a number, I think, for any high school team. He had 71 tackles. And once we convinced Brian which way he was going and who he was going after, whether it was a quarterback or containing, Brian played some fantastic football for us this year. Brian also an all-conference selection and an all-state selection for the 1989 season. Our best defensive player for '89, Brian Schultz. boys have done this year. Just for example, if you compare offensive statistics to what the defense gave up, in considering a lot of the games that we had a lot of young kids got playing time this year. On our final statistics for the year, our offense had gained almost 4,000 yards, and our defense gave up almost half that amount, 2,200. So I think there's a good statistic to take a look at, because a lot of young kids did get a chance to get a lot of playing time, which will help us in years to come. When you take a look at the kind of leadership that we have with our seniors and juniors, we're fortunate to have a super year that we did this year, and hopefully younger underclassmen will take a lesson from these senior leaders you had this year. Spend a little time up here in the summer in the weight room, do a little conditioning during the year, and it'll be your names that will be read off here next year.
Okay, I've got a few here, other awards now that we want to give out. The best specialty team player. And I think you always hear the pros, and they put a lot of emphasis on specialty teams and covering kicks and covering punts. And I think we had several outstanding specialty team members this year. But the award is going to go this year to a little bit different specialty player. He was an outstanding punter. I think before he graduates, he is going to be just one of the best punters that Wheaton High School has ever had or will have. He is an outstanding kickoff man. He could move the ball down inside the 5 time and time again. He kicked our extra points. He had 19 extra points. He kicked a field goal. I mean, the guy has just a great future and could be an outstanding defensive and offensive player. I want to say lineman. He doesn't like it when I say lineman, but he is a great kicker and a great specialty player, Ryan Kelly. The next award will go to our most improved player. We actually have 2 players here that this is showing improvement from last year to this year. I wasn't on board last year, so I can't tell you. I had to kind of go by how the players voted and how the coaches voted on this one, and the players, I think, made an excellent choice. The first one is going to go to a junior. I mean, the guy, to me, played some outstanding, hard football. He was one of the best hitters. Probably didn't hit with quite the authority that Jake hit. All you have to do is ask Chris Lubin how hard Jake hits, and he'll be more than happy to give you a little rendition on how hard he hits. But this guy hits awfully hard, and we're going to be tickled to have him back. He led us in interceptions this year. Had 4 interceptions. He had some awfully big plays, and when we started on defense all year long, and we ran into back problems. Our backs kept hurting their legs and their feet at the end of the year, and so we had to turn him into a running back, and he just did a super job at running back for us, and that's Steve Schmidt. He isn't a bad wrestler either. And our next most improved player was a little guy that, I tell you what, he was at every practice. He worked hard at every practice. If we wanted him to be a defensive lineman, he'd be a defensive lineman. If we wanted him to be an offensive lineman, he'd be an offensive lineman. And when we wanted to put him in the backfield to give us a little bulk in the backfield, we had it, and I'll tell you, it was just a joy to coach this young man, Craig McBurney. award is because we put a lot of emphasis on being in practice and always being there. When you're in practice, you give it all you've got, and you're always there, hopefully on time, and you're practicing. You're a great practice player, and you're a great game player, and you're always giving 100%. And this fellow, I tell you what, I never seen him, whether it be practice or games, that he didn't always give 100%. Whether he'd be hurt or not didn't make any difference. Our best 100% effort, practice and games, Tim Gale. We come to our last individual award now. And you can't say enough about all of our players. I wish I could give everybody a most valuable award. I think certainly they were all deserving at times, and whether you were a starter or a reserve, all of you guys in my heart will be most valuable just on account of the way you played all year and the effort that you gave all year. And the thing that we're giving out here is one guy is going to get this award, but all of you contributed to making it possible for him to receive this most valuable player award here in 1989. Now, we could start and say, I happened to go to the coaches meeting for All-State. All the coaches in the state were balloting on who was going to make All-State, and I had a coach from a opposing team come up and they said, you know what, how big is this guy? He just doesn't look that big. You know, in your program, he looks so big, but when you see him on the field, he looks short. Well, that's right. But you can't measure this guy on the basis of being small or short. Like Denny Cornier, the coach from Hancock, said, we have hitters, and our chef is a hitter. But you've got a guy there that hits as hard or harder than he is. It seems like when he hits, he just explodes through the body. And I'll tell you what, anyone who has ever been hit by this guy would swear. I'm not going to talk about his passing. We don't want to get into that. We're going to just talk about the positive side here now. But this guy was a player. He played, and coaches cannot imagine this. He played the last 4 games on a broken leg. He just started playing basketball last week. Couldn't stand running on that leg. He played with an air splint. Nobody plays with an air splint. If you've got a broken leg, you don't play. This guy would come and say, Coach, put me in. And we'd carry him out. Doc would come down and we'd tape him and he'd get me in there. I want to play. I mean, the guy is a player. He's got a heart. My God, you couldn't measure the size of this kid's heart and how hard he played. So I don't have to tell you that our most valuable player is Jake. Okay, now we're going to get into the awards. All of the guys that stayed out after the season was over because the state high school league says you may have 27 only players, we have a roster of 36. Those 36 fellas are going to all receive a state medallion saying that we were in the state football tournament and that they are a section winner. Plus they get a plaque saying that they were a state participant winner. I'm a little disappointed in Johnston's in that we put in the order for the new, we need 9 more or 7 more medals. Oh boy, there goes my math, I guess you were right. We put in an order for 7 more medals. They promised me religiously that those medals would be here Friday, if not Friday, Saturday, or Monday, and of course, they are not here. I just want, we're going to award the medals like all of you fellas are getting the medals. And as soon as they get here, you will get your medal. Because I want all 36 players, managers to receive their participation plaque and medal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start. I'd like to have you line up, hold your applause until we get all of the players. And then the coaches will hand out the medals and their names are on the plaques there. So just make sure they get the right plaque with the right name. Okay, I'm going to start with our managers. First, these guys came on board with us in the middle of August when it was hot. They were with us until the coldest day that we were practicing. We had to hide up behind the trees because the wind was coming out of the north. Every once in a while I see these 2 little guys playing tag or running off or in the woods or trees like a couple little squirrels or chipmunks, but they were at every practice, and I tell you, they did a bang-up job, and the guys all got to really kind of love these 2 little characters, and characters, I guess, is what they were. But our managers for this year are Mark Gale and John White. So will you 2 guys come up? Guys, we'll do it right in front here, because there's much room up here. We'll do it right in front. I think everybody can see everybody. Then we'll go to our seniors. Jake Norton, Tim Gale, Andy Markson, Craig Herman, Colin Anderson, Jason Krenz, Jeff Zimmel, Mike Martinek, Brian Schultz, Greg Johansson. Those will be our seniors. You guys, incidentally, after the program, pictures over here. Everybody who's got awards tonight, over on the left side over here for pictures. Our juniors this year, John Barron, Steve Schmidt, Trevor Tim, Mark Horman, Tony White, Aaron Deal, Roger Dahl, Bobby Frisch, Sean Siegel. Our sophomores, Todd Larson, Carl Walmers, Todd Walsh, Gus Hoshile, Chad Zimmel, Tim O'Leary, John Arns, Brent Coles, Mark Behrens, Ryan Drinkwitz, Tony Frisch, Danny Rinke, Ryan Kellen. I wouldn't forget your name. Our freshmen, we had 2, Ryan Kranz, Troy Seiler. You guys just want to get across the front here, here's the line. just get the coaches to read, we'd really be in good shape. Okay, everybody got their medal? I think these 36 fellas deserve a nice hand for all. I don't have any more work with. Okay, we're getting right down to the last two awards. I can't tell the time either. Somebody said, how long is this going to be? Well, I said about 8 o'clock. Well, how about 8:45? Okay. I'm not sure, because since I've been in Wheaton, which has been 21 years, that we've had any all-state football players. Coach Henkus can tell you probably the last year and the last players that were all-state. I know we have had all-state players, but since I have been here, we have not. And it's quite an honor this year because there's only one school in the state that had more all-state people than we did. And that is St. Clair, that won the 9-man All-State Championship. So needless to say, they are going to have some. But the coaches felt very highly that Wheaton's caliber and their record and the teams that they played, that we deserve All-State recognition. Usually, pretty much predominantly all seniors, which I think is fitting in an award like this, a guy that has come up through the ranks and played all of these years. We have 3 All-State participants. The first one is All-State Honorable Mention. The balloting went right down to the end, so that there were 3 quarterbacks left in the running in the whole state of Minnesota with 84 9-man teams. And when it was all said and done and the vote was taken, a young man by the name of Carlson from Burndale, who passed for something like 3,000 yards or whatever this year, astronomical figures, did become the All-State player. But I really feel that our All-State quarterback was right up there. He was in the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the state, and that was Tim Gale. The next All-State performer won it. Actually, I feel could have probably been an All-State defensive player. Talking with the Hill Beaver Creek coach, they said he was the toughest defensive end that they went against all year. We could not run his end. And I think that's probably true. I really feel that Brian was an outstanding defensive end. But he also had a great pair of hands. And we're getting letters from all over the area. I think I watched him drop 1 ball all year, where I could say that he dropped a football. He caught 41 passes. He would just, some of his catches were circus catches. He'd catch with one hand over his head like against the Valley at that time for a touchdown. He had just absolutely, I don't know if I've seen a receiver that has any softer hands and could catch a football in traffic. He's hard-nosed, he is tough, he's a blocker, he's a running back when we needed him to be a running back, and his statistics speak for himself. And I'll tell you what, he was the #1 choice for an offensive receiver in the state of Minnesota, and that is Brian Schultz. All-State player, made it as a first-team linebacker. They picked 4 linebackers, cornerbacks, linebackers, however you want to call them. And he was unanimous choice there as a linebacker. Like everybody said, they watched Wheaton play and they just could not believe how he could tackle. Here again at Hill Beaver Creek, their running back had a cinch touchdown. Their coach told the assistant coach, "Hey, we just scored." All of a sudden he looked up and he seen out of nowhere came a guy and he took this 200-pound running back and dropped him right in his tracks, just like a ton of bricks. And we stopped him on a 4th down play on the 2-yard line and stopped the touchdown. And nobody played defensive linebacker any better than our All-State player, Jake Norton. Jake, what did you say? I'm going to call our 1989 captains up here, and I'm going to give them their stars for being captains. And I want to tell you how much, fellas, I appreciate the work that you captains from the captain's practice that started in the past summer, and how hard you worked and led by example all year long. With the 1989 captains come up. And I would like you fellas to introduce to the people the 3 fellas that will be captains for us in 1990. Okay, Tim Gale, Jake Norton, Brian Schultz, Greg Johansson, not here.
Captain for 1990, Johnny Barons, Steve Schmidt, Tony White. Now, with that, that is our last award. I'm going to turn this over now. We're going to have our pictures over here. We've got a couple guys that are, I know, just itchy to say a couple of things. And I know Coach Henk is, I won't say it. I'll just turn it over to you.
Congratulations, boys. You had a tremendous year. And so I'm going to lay this right down here. 25 years ago, this past fall, your dads played on a championship team as well. And here is their picture, and so you can see what they look like. So I'll lay it down here. You guys can look at it when you come up there. There's no other thing, is there? No. Okay. I hope that probably someday I'll be able to come back again, if the good Lord is willing, and be able to watch this again and see the awards given out, especially to these guys that are down here. I would someday like to see them come up and get that handshake and get that special award. And you guys, like Mr. Satter said, it takes dedication, it takes work, and it takes a lot of hard work. But you all can do it. There's no reason you can't. Okay. Okay, thanks very much for having me. Very
A few other fellows that we didn't mean to slight, and I wanted to introduce them before we got started, but I think most of you know that our football program would not be a success had it not been for our assistant coaches. And this year we were fortunate to have Coach Derry Peterson work with our 7th grade, did an outstanding job with those 7th grade kids. Derry has been back there, well, there he is, in the booth back there. Derry's done a super job. Coach Mike Moline, Mike played for me, and there's another guy that played with a big heart and always gave it everything he had, and you couldn't ask for anything more than how Mike played the game, whether it be basketball, football, or baseball, whatever. So Coach, he had our junior varsity in 9th grade and 8th grade. Mike just helped out, did our scouting, he just helped us wherever need be, and just great job, Mike. The guy that drove over here every day from Rossville, South Dakota, and just helped out immensely with our junior varsity and 9th grade programs, and we're just tickled to have Coach Thompson on board with us. And I know I would be mistaken if I didn't introduce you to the granddad of all the coaches here and our AD, and really has done a great job for the football program for many years, and we think he's just done a super job, George Sawyer. So with that, you see my thank you on the deal. I don't have to say thanks to everybody again, but here again, thanks for coming tonight, and I hope that we can make this an annual thing, and that we just keep the program going from where these guys have given just such a super start. I tell you what, when they come back to their reunions, they'll be able to say, hey, we played on Wheaton's first undefeated football team ever. And I think that's going to be quite a thing to be able to come back, and we're the first team that played in a state tournament football. And that's a great honor, and we just think the world of these guys. Best of luck to all of you fellas.
I'm sneaking in front of you whether you like it.
You guys look so soberish, look. you guys. Do an oink.
Go up there closer. Maybe they'll do it at the end. Shut up.
You're not even recording, you dummy. You're not recording? You're not recording! Dummy.
Look at Ari's.
Now he's recording. 1, 2, 3.
Who'd like that?
You'll all get bloody noses.
Okay, that's better.
Is there any kind of... Do the kid way.
Nothing wrong with that. Where's Gary?
I guess
Got a slide. Come on, Matt, Get mad. Pineapple.
Say cheese.
Wait, no, I gotta take one.
Come on, not so sober. Pretend you're hitting your sister. Smile.
Broke the camera. Drop it with him. Okay. Neil and Mike. Huh? Becky. You got any film up?
Oh, you haven't done yet.
When you only got one kid and you only plays one sport, this takes a while.